blades, router beds, collets,
recording.
All right. What were we talking about before that?
We were talking about cheap material. That's what we were talking about right before.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
we were talking, so hopefully it'll be fine. We'll see.
We're gonna find out, Josh. You might have to come back. Do it all
There's
over
no way.
again.
No way. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 22 of the Slightly Serious Sign podcast. This episode is voted number 1 by XEdge. So joining us is Josh from XEdge. We're going to talk all things router bits, which may not sound the most exciting, but the main thing we're here is we're trying to figure out why does it matter what bits you're choosing if you're using a router, or maybe you don't have one, you're looking at getting into it. Hopefully we'll answer a lot of those questions and kind of figure out what matters when you're looking for bits, maybe what doesn't matter so much, and why it's important to know which ones you're choosing and whatnot. So joining me is Domingo, obviously here. What you may notice is this is the first episode we haven't done with Mike. So if this one does super well, like he said in the last one,
He's out.
we're not inviting him back. So we went just as far as to literally replace his seat this time. So Josh is actually sitting in his chair. So
I feel so strong.
yeah, you do. You look great. You look way better than the last guy we had in that chair. So
Well, not to interrupt here real quick, but XEdge also sells blades.
Yeah.
For cutting.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of different types of router blades, blades for cutting. I mean, they have a lot of tools. So hopefully we'll get Josh to explain some of those tools for us and some of the techniques and some of the things, what you should do and shouldn't do with some of the ACM that is being routed out there, because we get a lot of questions on that as well.
yeah. So I did want to just say a disclaimer. I said episode 22, but we were just joking that fingers crossed you got to see episode 20 and 21, because we just did those ones at GPX RapsCon last week. So we did them live at the show. So hopefully the audio and video came out. I literally just transferred the files onto my computer before I came in here. So I have no idea if it worked or not. But so if you're seeing this and you're like, the last episode I saw was 19 or whatever it is, 20, I don't remember, then that's probably what happened. So hopefully they came out good. But if not, we might have missed 2 episodes in the middle there. So
Yeah,
sorry.
but Rick, the producer, he's a good guy. He'll figure it out.
So if you suffered through those 2, we appreciate it. Hopefully they weren't too bad. So, but anyways, Josh, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you coming out.
Josh.
I know it's a real long drive for you. How long did it take you to get here?
21 minutes with construction.
We were just talking with the warehouse guys. Actually, we're in here. I was setting up the cameras. I had them sit in so I could get that all set up beforehand. We were joking how many different vendors we actually have that we can pick up from. Like, you'd be surprised, and not just like at all of our locations. I mean, like just out of our corporate headquarters, I think there's 4 or 5 of them that we literally can pick up from, meaning they're here in Michigan. So I think that's cool, but that's just kind of a preview on XEdge, obviously. But so who are you? How long you been in the industry, and what's your current role?
Yeah, give us your background.
Yeah, so Josh Martinez. I've been with XEdge for 4 years and in the industry for 9. Prior to that, I was with a cell phone company for 9 years. So that's...
You don't have to tell them, but did you like that job, or?
It was retail. So I love the company, but no, I can never go back to retail.
I'm going to tell you right now that you're in this industry, you ain't getting out.
I see that. I see especially at your guys' open houses, how many people bounce from company to company.
Which is it's a great industry. That's why.
No, I love this industry. I think the sign industry, I have all of them between like fabrication and, all the different ones. Like, it's definitely the cleanest. So I do enjoy it.
That's funny. My job before I came here was also in the cell phone industry.
Yeah,
and I said the same thing.
Before.
I'd never go back.
Yeah.
I don't have the same feelings that you do, though. Love the company. I didn't really feel that way when I left. So anyways, so you're at XEdge now. What's your current role there?
I deal with distribution sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mostly dealing with companies like us then on our side. Is there other reps, or do you cover?
I'm the national distributor rep, so I'm the one that they would deal with.
Okay.
So U.S., no Canada, just...
Yeah, we have vendors in Canada, Mexico, UK, New Zealand, and I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Family?
Yeah. Wife of almost 20 years and 3 children.
Nice.
So we have a 21-year-old, 18-year-old just turned 18 a couple days ago, and a 17-year-old, soon to be 17.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. I have
All
a
right.
little one.
I know that they missed this on the other podcast, but you're going to do all these shows.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food at your favorite place?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to Vegas, you've been everywhere.
Yeah,
Is there any?
I'm not a foodie.
You're not.
No, but I do like Asian food.
Okay.
Thai, anything curry, African food, like just like
Really?
different type. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I like just different flavors.
Okay.
And I always try to look for a hole in the wall. Yeah.
We like those.
That's what the first thing when we were just in Long Beach, my dad was laughing at me because I got there and he didn't want to eat dinner, whatever. He's being weird. I don't know. And I was like, I'm going to go eat. But it was already like 9 o'clock and everything was like literally closed. So I'm just like, I'm walking down the street just like on my phone, like, is there anything open? Like, can I even get food right now?
Yeah.
And I just walked by a food truck and the guy that's ordering food is like, dude, you have to try. And I don't even know what he said. I'm gonna be honest with you. No idea what word came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
He said, you have to try. And I was like,
Fine.
it seems like a sign, right? So I just said to the guy, I said, whatever he just said, like, yes, please, I'll take one. And so my dad laughs because I just come back with literally just like a grocery bag of food I come back in with. And he's like, I was like, food truck was the only thing I could find food. So that's the same thing. I'm like, if it was like cash only, I was like, whatever, it's fine. Just get me food. I'm gonna go back to my hotel. So I'm the same way. Like if it says cash only, it's probably a good restaurant.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Well, was it good?
Oh, dude, it was delicious.
Yeah.
So it was like a Euro truck. Typically, but it was like a, I don't remember what they called it, but it was like a nacho version of a Euro. So like it was like extra cheese or something on it or something, but it was like fried in cheese base. It was like a Euro fried in cheese, basically is what it was.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was definitely not good for you. I can say that, but it was delicious. And then I had a regular Euro, so I brought food back. And then my dad did eat after. He said he wasn't going to eat.
Yeah.
I was like, well, as soon as it smells,
Figures.
I bring it to the hotel. It's fried food, so as soon as you walk in, you could just smell it. It was delicious. So I don't even have the name of the truck, so I couldn't even tell you. In Long Beach, it's a blue truck. They sell Euros. That's all I got for you. I never saw the truck again.
Careful with the blue truck.
I never. Yeah.
Could say free candy on it.
Don't get in the truck. Just order food at the truck. Okay. It was delicious though. So yeah, I'm kind of the same way. But so we're talking about what is X-Edge? What do they do? What do you guys supply?
Yep. Yeah. So we supply knives for like the Kongsberg, Axes, Multicam, any knife machine. We also sell CNC accessories like mist for cotton fluid, maintenance stuff for your machine and for your tool holders. We sell tool holders, collets, and then we also do router bits. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
Basically anything that has to do with cutting and routing for the most part.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So how, just because I don't know the answer, so that's why I ask. In terms of like blades and that kind of stuff, like how far are you only doing like the mid and high end? Like we're talking like not going down to like Craft Tech and that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, so we're a carbide company. So we only do carbide blades, and we've looked at doing other steel blades, which will probably come soon just because so many people ask for them. So I think because of that, it does take us out of the less quality blades for like smaller machines. And most like plotters are generally steel, like a high grade steel, and they're not carbide. So we don't really sell stuff like that. But we, anything for, small carbide blades, that would be us.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out.
You don't sell the complete tools for the high end, right? It's just the blades.
Just the blades, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we don't sell we sell the tool holders for routers, but there's also tool holders or, the case that holds the knife, and we do not sell those.
Okay.
Makes sense. So
do you sell any collets or anything like that? Okay.
Yep,
so you do.
collets, underlayment for holding material down, or holding your substrate down.
Okay.
And stuff like that. Anything to complement the router to cut better is sort of what we focus on, or a part of our business. And I would say all that other stuff is close to 50% of our business. So it's interesting. Yeah. All those little things add up. And last year or the year before, probably almost a year and a half ago now, we've gotten to diamond, and for acrylic, polishing acrylic, and soon to come to polish aluminum. But it's, one of those things that, that's like one of my favorite things to watch, is see something come out off a router that you think it cut well, and then you see it polished by this diamond bit, and it just looks, you can see right through it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking about diamond. You just brought up what other. We covered all like the types of bits that you have. So what is like the main difference between like a lower quality bit versus like a more expensive? Like when we talk about diamond, kind of like what are the differences there?
Yeah. So like in the diamond world, you have PCD and MCD, and we use MCD, which is straight diamond. And so there's no other material in it. And so you get a longer cut life and a lot better cut, or a polished edge. And then with carbide, I mean, you can change the grade of carbide, how much tungsten is in it, how much cobalt is in it. And some tools do need to be changed, where maybe they're need to be stronger and not be as sharp as long. But the idea is that you want a bit to stay sharp for a long time. That's why you're paying for the carbide. That's why you're paying for the diamond, because the material is so hard that it's going to give you that cut quality that you expect for much, much longer.
Now, I have seen some router bits that are gold bits.
Yeah.
Now, that is, how does that fall into play between these blades?
Yeah, I think personally, I think a lot of that is marketing.
That's what I thought.
And we've done a lot of testing. I mean, hours and hours and different coatings. And the harder coatings do work really well. But there's a trade-off when you coat a bit. You do take a little bit of your edge, and it's rounded now, because now it's got coating on it.
Right,
it's no different. If you had a corner and you paint it, you prime it, paint it, it's not going to be as sharp of a corner as once that material hits it. And the same thing happens too when you coat a bit. So we have done a lot of tests on it. It is really gimmicky, but I don't know if that's, if people buy it, is that a bad thing,
Yeah. I mean, like with gold, like from what I know about gold in the past, when you got a gold bar, the way they would test if it was real gold is they would bite it, right? Because gold is historically soft, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you can add stuff to it, but then you're making a gold bit that's actually not pure gold to make it hard, which then what you're saying is there's already better resources. Like you have to add stuff to gold to make it hard. So it's probably not, it feels pretty gimmicky knowing anything you know about gold. Like you're already having to add things to it to make it.
And that's just harder. A color, though. I mean, those gold bits, it's just a color. I mean, added to it, but we have coated bits, but they are designed to cut aluminum dry, which is really hard on a tool. Aluminum's is fairly hard to cut, because you have some people have routers that have misters on them and some that do not. And then you have people that have routers that have really high RPM but low horsepower motors, which you need something to stop that heat to dull that bit, so that person can cut, several sheets with it without dulling it.
When you speak of speed and RPMs, there's a lot of people that want to do it faster.
Yeah.
But it's not right to do it faster. You have to kind of find that even, I guess you would say, the speed and how the thickness of the product. You have to be very careful and go by the recommendations that the bit actually has.
Right.
And hopefully that router can do that.
Right. Yeah, not all routers can. And then, unfortunately, you're stuck with a tool that's not going to have very long life. And you just have to let the customer know that. And there's a lot of things that play and role that with vacuums, how much vacuum you have to hold on to your parts. If you're cutting little parts, you're not going to be able to take the normal pass that you would normally take to get that tool to last the longest. So, and that's sort of, where our company started from is not so much focusing on the chip load, but focus on individual machines and spindles, so we can come out with a formula. So on our website, we have like a chip load calculator that actually you put in your horsepower motor. You put on like the material cut, and you put all that information. So it's asking machine information, which you don't get that in any other tool company out there. So, but that's so we focus on, are you trying to achieve a long tool life, or are you trying to achieve the best cut quality? And that would determine your feed rate and your RPM.
Now, do you guys sell also the vacuum pumps? And
we don't. But my previous job, I did do that. So I sold the dust collection and the vacuum pumps that would hold the material on. And so I have a lot of like, knowledge on how this stuff works, and which has really helped me on the cut-in side of it, because all those things are very important. You can have a great dust collection system, but if it's sucking up your parts, then it's an issue. Yeah. And then you got to pick a tool that helps with that, or maybe shut your dust collection off and have a mess, so.
So what you're saying is that even with like any standard sheet, right? If we talk about like ACM is a good example of that. You're saying there's different tools depending on kind of what you're looking for, right? So you can get a bit that's going to last longer, but it might not have the cleanest cut, versus a blade that's going to have a super clean cut, but it's going to dull quicker.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, for an example, in ACM, a lot of your customers will cut it, but they might have a inexpensive router, so they'll want to use a down cut, but you're just taking the heat from the chips and forcing it down. And when that happens, your tool life is really, probably cut in half. So then that customer will come back and maybe to you or me and say, hey, this tool didn't last as long, and you have to tell them what to change. But I can tell you another thing on the ACM topic. If you have a tool for ACM, only use it for ACM. And it doesn't matter if it's the right tool or wrong tool, but once you take that tool to another product, it's going to leave a line, because the aluminum foil, because it's so thin, I mean, it's really what it is foil, is so thin that it actually eats away the carbide, but the plastic just cuts like butter.
Right.
So, just...
Well, all ACM is different too.
Oh, for sure.
There's different resin, different thicknesses, different plastic in it. It just... So how do you know which one to really use? Are you saying the ACM bit is the one that should be used at all times on thicknesses and different? Okay.
You would definitely
test it.
Yeah. And different quality of material. And really, I can tell you, when I started 9 years ago, this was not nearly an issue as it is now. It is definitely, we run into this all the time. And even the manufacturers of the ACM will change where they get it from, or what type of materials is sandwiched in between it. Right. So, it definitely is, you might have ran 650 inches a minute on a high-speed router before, and now you're finding yourself that you're only running 250 inches a minute. So, and the quality of ACM does make a difference, because if the top, if you look at ACM, it always seems that there is a layer that's a little bit thicker than the aluminum part is a little bit thicker than the other one. And sometimes that, foil aluminum on top can actually curl and leave a little bit like, not a desired cut or a feel when you especially putting vinyl on it. You don't want that to, look like that. So, but yeah, you definitely, our Viper bit is what I would recommend cutting the ACM. And we also have the DLC coated Viper, and that really is the tool that you'd want to use just for tool life and all around, the best cut quality.
What we've seen, especially with people like bending ACM panel, right, is if you're not using the correct ACM, it doesn't matter what bit you're going to use or what speeds you're going to use. Like, it's just not going to get the look you're going for. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with X-Edge or any bit manufacturer. What you're saying is there's a lot of really thin ACM out in the market now. So if you're buying ACM and it's like, wow, this stuff is way cheaper than the stuff I was buying before, it's probably because the ACM shell is super thin, and you may not notice it because they'll actually overcompensate with like a denser plastic in the middle, basically. So when you hold the sheet, it's going to feel just like the other sheet does, but the difference is that aluminum shell is way thinner. So as soon as you try and bend it or cut it, you're going to end up with issues. So it's something just to know, like if you're buying the cheapest ACM you can find right now, and then you're trying to cut it and you're not getting the look you want, it's probably not a bit issue. It's probably you need to buy a higher quality ACM panel. So something to be aware of. What are other things that people should look for in their sheets that would tell them? So not talking about ACM now, anything else, I guess. What are things they should look at in their sheets that would tell them, hey, I'm using the wrong bit for this job?
Yeah, you're talking about like the material itself?
Yes.
Yeah, so like on aluminum, we get this all the time, is people think aluminum's aluminum, and it's not. You have soft aluminum, you have hard aluminum. Hard aluminum cuts far better than soft aluminum. Soft aluminum tends to push, so you're running a lot slower feed rate. And with hard aluminum, you can use, you can actually get a healthy chip out of it, which will cool down the tool, and then the tool will last longer. So if you're cutting aluminum, you're like, why is my tool not lasting very long? Well, at some point, either you went to a softer aluminum or it's a recycled product and it's not straight, 50-52 or 60-61. But yeah, so it's harder aluminum is always easier to cut. So if you're purchasing aluminum and you're gonna make a sign out of it, the harder the better. But I believe in a lot in the sign world, they're folding it a lot, and soft aluminum I believe folds better, and so we do see a lot of that as well.
Is that something you should be able to see like on like spec sheets, or how would they know like the hardness of the aluminum they're getting?
So like if it's a straight aluminum product, it normally is written on the product itself.
Okay.
On the aluminum sheet, but a lot of times it's not. So yeah, I mean, that would be whoever they're getting their aluminum from, they need to make sure that they know the grade of aluminum.
So it should be on the data sheet.
It should be. Yeah.
That's why those data sheets are very, very important.
That's a good question. As we're talking about it, I'm going like, I wonder if it's on our data sheet. So by the time you hear this, it'll be on the data sheet for sure. Yeah, it's on there. It's on there.
Oh, it's on there.
If it's not, as we're talking about this, by the time you see this, it will be on there. So we'll be like, yeah, it was always there. We're never done though. Anyways, sorry to interrupt the podcast, but we want to have a special episode for episode 25, and we want to do Q&A. So if you have questions, send them to podcast@wensco.com. If you send them to that email, I'll get them. We'll go through them on the air. If it's anybody that's been on the podcast, any of my brothers, anyone you've seen, Domingo, Mike, anybody like that, welcome to send them in. If it's to somebody you even haven't seen on the podcast yet, but you have questions for them, we'll bring them on to answer your questions. So send them in. Again, podcast@wensco.com. You can also send them out on socials, or if you know if it's anywhere, if you have our phone numbers, emails, send them. I don't care where you send them as long as they get to me, and we'll be happy to answer them live, potentially live, on episode 25. So send in your questions. Again, podcast@wensco.com. And now we'll get back to the episode. We get questions sometimes, right? We're not the professionals on cutting or routing, right? So sometimes you'll ask questions like, hey, it's doing, this, or it's not cutting the right way, or I'm running through bits too quickly. So just anything that helps them kind of figure out what they should or shouldn't be doing is usually helpful. So talking in terms of like, a lot of times when we run at ACM, we're talking about like speeds, and there's a few different factors into how fast you cut it or how the spindle works. How would they know that is wrong? Like, we can go back to ACM. How would we know we're using the wrong settings? Maybe we have the right substrate, we have the right bit. How would we know if it's actually the wrong settings on the router that is the issue?
I would say if you see the tool not lasting as long as you think it should, if you're getting one sheet out of it, you're probably cutting too slow. So, or your RPM on your spindle is too high. So I would say look for cut quality and definitely the tool life are going to be the biggest thing. And the goal is you do want to get a big chip. Like, you want to actually be able to see your chips like curl up and actually have a real chip. I mean, that's sort of the goal of it. But sometimes that, certain materials, you just aren't going to get that, like acrylic. You can cut it really fast and get a large chip, but the acrylic part is not going to look that great. The tool is going to last a long time, but that's not going to be generally what they're trying to achieve with an acrylic bit. So, but yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is tool life. If you think you should get more out of it, reach out to us, reach out to you guys, and then we can sort of, gauge at, or just test it yourself. If you're going 150 inches per minute in ACM, try 600. And then if you can live with that quality, you're going to get a better tool life. But it's a lot on preference and what they think is a good quality cut, and maybe they just don't know. But yeah, definitely tool life and what the agile quality looks like.
So the higher the speed, the longer the bit's typically going to last?
Yeah, depending on what your RPM is at, yeah. So like on a lot of the smaller routers, especially in the digital finishing world, high RPM spindles are common. So you'll see a spindle go up to like 40,000 RPM, but it's only like just over a horsepower of a spindle. So you probably could take it, grab that spindle and have it come on, and you could stop it from turning. But it needs that RPM to create the torque to cut through the material. So, and you can cut 30,000 RPM, but you better be also cutting, 5, 6, 7, 800 inches a minute. So
it's interesting. I guess I didn't know how that works. So what you're kind of saying is, if you're running into issues where maybe your bit isn't lasting as long as you think it should, it might just be an issue of running too slow a lot of times.
Yeah. Yep. Or your RPM is too high, and generally we have those conversations with the customers, so we tell them what to look for. And then that way they can sort of play with it and figure out where they need to be, but we can also provide that information.
Yeah, I've done sales calls with you where we just walked in and like, hey, what are you guys cutting now? Like, what are kind of issues you're having now? It's not even someone who necessarily is thinks they're having issues, right? But if you cut in front of them, like, hey, how's it working? What are you doing now? What speeds are you doing? And you usually have recommendations like, hey, you're doing it this way. Try this way. I think it might work better for you. And they would have no idea, right? They've just been, say their bit could last 20% longer if they dialed in the speeds. Well, that means you're going to buy, maybe 5-10 bits less a year. Just that simple sales call is going to save you money in the long run.
Yeah, save them money. It hurts my pocketbook.
Yeah, exactly. We want you to run it as inefficiently as possible.
Yeah,
right. But if you want help, we can help you. But no, like that's just something you don't necessarily know, right? Like I always talk about just doing it the same way we've always done it, right? The way we're doing it is working. We're not going to change it. And sometimes it's, hey, maybe you could do it slightly more efficiently and save yourself some money in the long run. So just something to know. What are signs people should look at when it's time to replace a bit, when they should buy a new one, which we would love you to.
Yeah. It definitely, I would say the cut quality would be the biggest thing. Yeah. So look at if you see it starting to push the material, it's not cutting the material. So an ACM, you'll see that a lot.
You'll see a little ripple.
Yep.
Like,
you'll see
like
it start,
bumps.
Yep. And again, it'll cut that plastic, no problem.
Right.
But it'll start pushing that aluminum. Mm-hmm. It won't cut the aluminum. And so if it's starting to push the material, or if for like PVC, you'll actually see the material weld back. So it'll actually weld back on your cut line, you look back and it's all like the powder that was supposed to be out, or the chips will now be welded back in the material because there's so much heat in it.
Right.
And so that would now tell you again, if you felt it was prematurely, wore out, then you need to either lower your RPM or move up your feed rate. So.
Okay. So I had a question in reference to a lot of blades have you can get 10,000 1-inch characters. Does that fall somewhat in play with router bits as well, that you should be able to get this amount of feet cut? Does it come into play or does it not come into play?
It is like an impossible number to come up with.
Okay.
And the reason why is because every router is different.
Right.
And everybody runs that router differently.
Yeah, and I think the important thing that I'm trying to get across is that people that are buying the bits should take note of what they bought.
Right.
And what they're cutting on, so that they get somewhat of a rough estimate that I should be able to get this amount of sheets for this bit during my process of this bit, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing with a blade. I keep telling customers that, be careful. They say 10,000 1-inch characters, but you don't know if somebody else took that blade, dropped it on the floor, chipped it. You just don't know, but you should have a rough idea what you're cutting, how much you're cutting, and know when to replace that. Right. What to look for, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of holds true to a router bit as well.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to be the same for every person. Yeah. I mean, and like we did that demo with King Color Core.
Yep.
And Multicam. And, that's a perfect example. That router, the spindle was so large that it was easier to tell what it should do, because we were able to we didn't have to, run the RPM really high to make it through material, because once it hits the material, it slowed down. It was such a big, spindle, it was easier to tell. But yeah, when you run into higher RPM spindles, people tend to want to run it at, they want to run it at 40,000 inch, or 40,000 RPM or 60,000 RPM. And that's just not always the right answer.
Yeah, the King Color we did a video you can see it on our YouTube channel too, but when you were talking earlier about you should be able to see the large bits, if you don't know what we're talking about, you can watch that video, because we have a slow-mo section of us cutting the King Color Core at a super high speed, and you can see the bits they're faster than the dust collector can pick them up, because they're big old chunks and they're shooting. So that's what we're talking about when he says big, you should be able to see them, that's what it's talking about. You can literally see them flying off the machine. So that gives you an idea of what to look for when we're talking about that. Yeah. But is there any other things people should look at that we didn't already talk about? If they're currently routing equipment, what are signs that they have the wrong bit, or that they need to get a higher quality bit that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I would say, when you're cutting aluminum, I would use mist if you can. Your tool will last far, far longer, and it'll make your life cutting the material a lot easier. So and we also sell mist, but it's very, you don't have to use a lot of it. Just use a little bit and make sure the mist is blowing on the tool itself. And I feel we run in that a lot in this industry, because either the people don't want to use their misting system to have it, but they don't want to use it because it's messy.
Right.
And this industry is a clean industry. Like their printers, they can't get anything on them, So, yeah. What was the other part of that question?
That's mostly just if there's anything they should look for that we didn't talk about, kind of that would indicate they need a different tool or a higher quality tool for the job. I really asked that thinking right now, something we deal with is people just bringing stuff in from China, right? Like you can get bits and blade, all the small stuff, right? Which is kind of what we're talking about with these, like bits and blades ship real easy. They're small. So they're really easy for somebody from China to come in and just be like, hey, I have this bit. It's cheaper than the one you're buying now. Use this one. And I think people will just use it and it will work well enough and they'll just keep using it. We deal with this even on Graphtec blades, right? Where someone's like, yeah, I just buy them off Amazon. Be like, yeah, we replace them like every week and they work fine. Be like, it might be a little frequently that you're replacing the blade. And then you're also dealing with the fact that like that last, like 2 days before you replace the blade, the guy that's weeding it's like really struggling because it's not 100% cut through, it's not 100% straight, and they're just kind of living with it. So that's really what I'm getting at here is like, if you're buying it and you're just buying the cheapest one you can find, why would we be worried about that? I guess?
Well, I mean, and so we use the highest grade carbide, which is not cheap. So our product is probably going to be more expensive than something you find on Amazon or for surely China. But you really need to remember every time that you're changing that tool, it's downtime. So if it takes you, a minute, 2 minutes to change that tool and the machine is down, you got to start the machine back up. I mean, how more products could you have cut? But I think those smaller shops don't care about that because it might only be a 2-man shop and that machine's only running 2 hours a day. So that's a bigger thing for larger companies where that downtime is crucial to them.
Right.
Every minute that's down, they just missed out on 20 or 30 parts. So
the bigger companies always look at labor.
Right.
That's their biggest right?
Yeah.
Is labor.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we talk about and we preach about is labor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think on our side, what we see when people are using, like when we, sell them X-Edge for the first time, they've been routing the whole time. What we're seeing is they didn't realize like that end of the tool before they actually replace it. The product they're putting out is not super high quality, right? They're kind of just like letting it run and be like, the cut's not 100%, but
it's cutting.
Yeah. It's cutting. Yeah. It's working.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll sand it. We'll just clean it.
Yeah. Looks great. Looks great for my house, right?
More time, more labor.
looks great for my house. So something to look at, right? Like if you're kind of just like limping your router bits along and your cuts aren't perfect, like maybe think about one that you don't have to replace as often, so you can kind of spread that out further before you're like keep looking at it like, can we pass? Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, and not one tool does it all. I think that's the other thing too. So many shops you go into, oh yeah, we use this one because it's XYZ's company or another company's. It's their the tool that does it all.
Multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. If you're cutting aluminum, you want an aluminum tool. If you're cutting acrylic, make sure you get an acrylic tool. If you're cutting PVC, make sure you get something that cuts PVC. And also ask yourself, like, if I could cut, this job take me an hour to cut. If I could cut it in 30 minutes, what else could I be doing with my time? So I think, all those things are important, and sometimes you can get this across, and also the person purchasing the tool is not the person using the tool a lot.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of, how do you, tell the person that spend the money that the operator is maybe they're slowing their machine down. So someone's programming at one speed, but they're running at another speed. And so there's a lot that goes into, and that's sort of what I like about this job is actually going on spot, because I know enough about the machine inside and the knife side, how it should run, that I can sort of put together and say, okay, this is not what you're doing right. But maybe telling the operator he's not doing it right is the wrong person to tell he's not doing it right. You might want to tell the person that oversees him, say, hey, great guy, he's not doing this right. And maybe he's not doing it right because he can be on his phone for extra 15 minutes while the machines are running. I mean, who knows? I'm not really calling anybody out, but we see it. We see it a lot.
Yeah, we see that a lot with purchasers. They just look at the dollars.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about, well, it took this longer to do it.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, well, I saved $4.
Yeah. We talked about it in the laminate core episode too, where we're talking about there's the purchaser is looking at what's the cheapest piece of, and you probably run to that too, where someone's buying such a cheap piece of plastic that it's like they're going to cut it and it's just, you're not cutting in this. It's just not going to work. And I'm sure that happens frequently where it's just the guy purchasing has no idea that the guy that's running the router is like, why are we using this? And it never gets up to the purchaser. The purchaser's like, this is sweet. I've been saving so much money.
Yeah. I think the purchaser needs to go out on the floor and work with them and say, now do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is probably a problem that happens frequently. But anyways, we'll switch things up. We'll talk exclusively about XEdge here to wrap this up. But you were talking earlier about the different accessories like the mat and that kind of thing. What are other accessories that you guys have that you think would be useful to people, or when you go into a shop and they're not using, this tool or this accessory and you realize it's kind of a pain point for them? What tools do you guys have to kind of fix those problems?
Yeah. So we have a change-in station to help you change your tool easier so you aren't busting your knuckles. And we also have drill chucks, the underlayment mat, and it's weird. And high precision tools. So if you're cutting acrylic or you're polishing acrylic, it'll give you the best finish for the longest time. Yeah.
Those are the main ones, at least.
Yeah.
I know when we saw the mat, when we, like if you go through like King Color video we were talking about earlier, if you look at the mat that's in that picture that kind of prevents the substrate from moving, I know that was on our end kind of cool to see kind of the difference between if you just put it on the standard bed that they give you and how much it can shift versus if you put it on a mat, especially if you have a table that doesn't have like a super great like vacuum on the bottom of it. That mat can be super helpful, and that mat can still be helpful when it has a vacuum because it's porous, so it will still work with the vacuum.
Yep.
So we saw that same thing. You saw the demo of the tool change when you hold it in your hand and try and replace it versus putting it in the tool change station. So something to look for. Like I said, if you're bashing your knuckles, like you just said, kind of would be useful to maybe look at some of those tools. But if you have an issue with your equipment where something is a pain point in there, probably reach out because I'm sure there's a solution that is available. But kind of the last couple questions before we wrap it up. What do you think sets XEdge apart from its competitors in the industry?
I think just the fact that we have so much experience, we're able to, not always go using the chip load and sort of thinking outside the box. And, you may not be able to get a big chip if you want a good quality cut. And so, and also with all the different machines out there and us having so much machine experience and being in the industry for so long, that we understand that the vacuum isn't always going to be as good on one machine to the next. And you might have to change that up. So with us having that, the expertise part of it and into it really sets us aside, or apart. Yeah. And another thing is we carry a lot of different items. So we have the knives, we have the bits, we have the accessories. So you don't have to go to all these different companies and look for these different items. You can come to one place and get your tool changing station, your collets, your tool holders, your drill chucks, your knives, your router bits, everything all in one place.
And that's Wensco.com. If you guys were paid. I'm just kidding. Wensco.com. We carry
a lot of the products on the web. If
you see something in XEdge catalog that we don't carry, it's Domingo's fault. So
yeah,
I'll give you a cell phone number here. Just kidding.
All I need you to do is order a couple of them and we'll put it right on.
Yeah. So, but seriously, we try and carry all your products. So hopefully if somebody's looking for something, we should have it available. And if we don't, then like I said, yell at Domingo. So,
well, we actually do move a lot of the Viper tools.
Yeah, good.
Router bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last question, I'll lead into this with what you said. What you said sets you apart, but on our end, what sets I've traveled obviously with you to do sales calls and that kind of thing, and you are just a wealth of knowledge to get in front of them. Like kind of like you said, you have a lot of background in this industry, at least kind of from all sides. So it's easier for you to get in front of the machine and be like, oh, this is something you could change. This is something you could do. So if someone's running a shop now and they're running into issues, or it's running mostly fine and they're like, maybe we can run a little better, and they wanted to, get somebody in front of it, how would they get a hold of you or get a hold of XEdge to kind of...
Get a hold of your salesperson and they can contact me, or you can email me at josh@xedgetools.com.
That's perfect. Well, like I said, Josh, thanks for coming out. For those of you that are listening, we got to do this outro twice now because Rick's not here. So hopefully it wasn't so terrible. But like I said, thanks for coming out. I know it's not a long drive, but we appreciate it. We appreciate showing other companies that are here, in Michigan. Like we had General Formulations on. There's other companies here that we'll eventually have on that are also just literally here in Michigan. We pick up from them instead of them shipping it to us. So we appreciate you coming out. Hopefully you guys found something useful in this episode, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. So thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.